My name is Rebecca, and I'm considered a medium-high control teacher. I got that as I was learning about Lee and Marlene Cantor, and then Kerwin and Mendler. So the Kerwin and Mendler are more of a medium control, and the Cantors are more of a high control. Both of them talked about positive reinforcement, which I thought was so good, and the Cantors were all about assertive discipline. I love the idea of having clear, set roles and expectations. I want those to be very, very clear. I do want the students to have a say in it, though. I think that students should have a choice, should have responsibility of that as well. So I think that's a joint responsibility between teachers and students. The Mendler's more about discipline with dignity. I like the idea of catching them when they're being good. Oftentimes, we just catch them when they're being bad. It's more than that, though. You need to catch them while they're being good. And when they aren't being good, then still give them that dignity. Even though they're kids, they still deserve every bit of dignity and respect that we can give them. My little statement at the bottom is teachers should create a safe and consistent environment with clear set expectations so students can learn and grow. Going with the democratic classroom, I read the article Liven Up Your Lessons by Giving Students a Choice. And I love that. What he talked about was how someone went to a park and saw a balloon animal making guy. And this guy was making everything. He could make swords, he could make giraffes, he made a Spider-Man. Like it was so, so, so cool. And he said oftentimes, he made this little connection, oftentimes teachers just have a stick and say, here's a snake, or it can be an eel, or it can be a worm, whatever you want it to be, because it's a choice. It's still a stick. It doesn't do anything. It's useless. We need to be more teachers that give them a variety of actual choices. Give them color and give them an imagination. Student choice and student voice are huge in my classroom. Both of them are just so, so important to me because students need to take charge of their own education. I don't think it's ever too early for them to take responsibility, to take charge of their own education. So here's a lot of different ideas of how to do that. Let them debate the main point of the reading that we did. Why not? Even if it's not correct technically, let them give them a voice. They'll feel like they have a say and they'll be so much more confident. They'll go so much farther. They'll learn so much more if you give them a say. Another one was invite experts to visit and let the students ask them questions, like curiosity guide them. Devise an experiment. Let them figure out what they're curious about and let them learn about it. That's amazing. Why not let them lead what you teach? So next is motivation. It's all going along with it. I loved this quote that was on the slides. It says, you can't motivate a child. You can set up an environment where students are likely to be motivated. And I loved that. I was going back looking at our digital dialogue where a lot of us said what we were motivated about nowadays. Students now are often motivated because we have to or because we see the benefits in doing it. That's about it though. It's hard for us to be motivated with work and things like that because we love it. I hope that someday you can be motivated because you love teaching. I don't think a lot of us are, but I think our day-to-day motivation is very, very low. For students, learning is like that. Learning they don't see the benefits of learning. It's hard for them to do that. So let them enjoy it. Do it. Let them find the motivation to love it. And I think a few ways to do that is make a classroom that's theirs. Decorate it with their artwork. Let art supplies be in their reach all the time. Let them color with a different pen for an assignment because it's fun and it's different. Let them have charge of their own learning again. Extrinsic versus intrinsic rewards. I don't love extrinsic anything because I think it should be more intrinsic, but positive reinforcement I'm 100% for. I love that. I think it's so effective. Finding out what they like. If they're talking about silly bands, then put it in. I said allow them, or what's trending in their lives. Put that in the lessons. If there's a roller coaster being built nearby, why not talk about that during your math lesson or your gravity lesson or something like that? And let them reflect. Class meetings, we have class meetings. They're so good. Let them talk about what they like, what they didn't like, what was easy, what was hard. Do it in an exit ticket. There's so many ways to give them a say, to let them feel motivated from what we're learning. I don't want to talk a ton about the rules and procedures. I feel like a lot of us have the same thing. My only thing is that I definitely want them to be very clear. The students are going to have a say in what rules we are going to have in our classroom, but I want them to be very clear. I don't want to have to worry about teaching procedures or rules or going over or feeling bad if I have to discipline or anything like that. I want the expectations and the consequences to be very clear so that I can focus on teaching and egging on curiosity and motivating the kids um, and teaching in all those different aspects, not expectations. And yeah, one other thing that I thought, I don't know, might be a little bit different. Consequences, I love the progressive consequences. I love like, okay, first warning, and then that's structured as well. And second warning is a timeout, and you can come back when you're ready. Third warning is a timeout or a certain consequences, maybe for certain different things. I like the idea of punishment fits the crime, but I don't know. I'm still working that out, but I like the idea of progressive consequences. And if needs be, then I can send them to the principal's office. But all of those are going to be very clear to my students from the beginning. Again, I don't really want to spend a ton of time on the intervention, but I did want to spend a little bit of time on the bullying part of it. Here are all my notes, and then here's little how I organized those. But I loved the resources that were on Learning Suite for all these different bullying things. I mean, I want to do class meetings to deal with that kind of thing. I think that's effective. Sending it home with the parents as well. There's a lot of good activities. There's a lot of good videos that you can show your kids, and I thought that was a really great resource to utilize for the students as well. So I definitely wanted to point that out. And then lastly, there is my classroom, and I'm actually really proud of this. I really took a lot of time to try and find out like what few things that I really wanted in my future classroom, because I feel like the setup and the organization of it at least does a lot for me, and hopefully it does a lot for the students as well. First of all, like the kidney table is so cool. I didn't even know that that was like a thing until very recently, because I never had one growing up, but I think it's so effective for like individual teaching, for group instruction. I just think that it gives the student more choice. It gives them more of a say. It makes them feel more a part of their own learning. I love that. I really wanted it to be a group instruction because I like the idea the students learn from each other and from the world a lot more than they learn from me. So having that inward looking, as well as like they're all facing the front still, but the inward and to each other looking is way more effective teacher if I can provide that environment so that they can feel like they can learn from each other just as much as they can learn from me. The other thing, I love class meetings. I love morning meetings. I love that entire lesson that we had about that. I have like all the handouts for those anyways. And so I really wanted a place for all of that. And last, I really wanted a reading nook, a quiet place. So it's all like low cut, so, and the teacher can always see into it and things like that. It might not be super ideal because it's still closed off a little bit, but I knew that I wanted a quiet place and a safe place for my students to go when they're feeling overwhelmed. I want them to feel in a safe environment, in a creative environment, so that they can learn and enjoy what they learn. So that was really cool to me. And then here's like the whole key for it, and I organized it because organization is really big for me. And then here's all my papers and different hands out like that. So that's the kind of teacher that I want to be someday, and that's what I want my classroom to look like. So